Hey everyone, Joe Axman, the astrologer. Eh. Well, what's up, guys? In this video, I want to talk about Britney Spears, who made the headlines again with another crazy dance. I'm not going to play it. You guys can watch it. You've probably seen it already. She did the a similar thing before with the knives, and everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, Britney, get back on your meds" or whatever. And now she did another one where she's like in a bikini, like almost like a striptease, but like it's not, she doesn't, but kind of alluding to that almost. And just while we're on the topic of like get back on your meds, this is exactly the kind of behavior that I would expect for somebody in that position who they forced to take meds, and then if they don't take the meds, then they get crazy, and then everyone, like all the useful idiots, the fucking retards, the brain dead sheep, go get back on your meds. Oh, like you fucking dumb assholes. These meds make you crazy. They destroy the brain. They really do. So that's a big part of it. But there's also other factors, astrological factors, which I want to look at. So guys, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Book a reading with me, macrogoldmachine@yahoo.com. I still really need your support. So if you haven't got a reading from me yet, reach out and get one. You won't be disappointed. I do have a sliding scale, so if you do need if you have a genuine financial need, then I will honor that. I'd rather you have a reading than if you want one than not. And you can always get a second reading. Like if you've gotten one before, you can get a more detailed reading about upcoming whatever transits, secondary progression, solar arc directions, yearly perfections, all that stuff, right? Or synastry. So anyway, let's get into it. I'm going to share my screen. Go watch that video of Brittany if you haven't already. But anyway, look. So this is just her general chart. And we know a lot about what's happened, but the real significance. One thing I want to point out is that her ascendant is in Libra, but it's in the bounds of Saturn. And Saturn being the exaltation lord, Saturn gains extra strength here because of the bounds. So therefore, Saturn could be considered as secondary ascendant lord. You could say like, okay, ascendant lord in the first house conjunct Pluto, right? Which kind of makes sense a lot in a lot of ways because Pluto is very destructive and transformative. Saturn is exalted, obviously in Libra, which would explain a lot of things about her and her how she, her success as a, global pop star. Um, Interestingly, there's this in conjunct to Chiron, with Chiron in the superior position, which you could relate to sort of her troubles that she's had, wounds and healing and all that, but also her really phenomenally unique success, right? She's a one of a kind star that is, you know, one in 8 billion, right? Or Britney Spears. That kind of level of success. Huge success, really. Right. But the Saturn Pluto thing also, we know it rules the fourth and fifth house. But any case, one of the things we could say is that she is her own worst enemy, right? We could look at the father influence, the conservatorship, as well, but partly it's her, right? Partly it's just her craziness, her wackiness, right? And I'm not saying other, like the people who are forcing her to take drugs aren't also a huge factor in her craziness. That's true, right? But we can't discount her own um responsibilities in that. Um, if we look at the secondary progressions right now, okay, so her moon is in Virgo, secondary progressed moon's in Virgo, with secondary progressed sun in Capricorn. So there's a trinal relationship, but moon's in the 12th house. Sun, it has basically passed the south node. And one of the significators about south node sun is sort of like leaving society behind, right? Because the sun is the bulk of what represents society, because that's how, you know, it's communal or global in influence. It's objective. It's what everyone's doing. The sun, right? It's like the thing. And if South Node is conjunct the sun, then usually these people live more like in a natal chart. They'll tend to, especially later in life, have a bohemian lifestyle, move off the grid, go live somewhere in the woods or whatever. Like they'll be very non-worldly, right? It's going to be different for everyone, right? But it's unconventionality. She did recently retire from music, so that's a huge significator right there. We could look at Venus also as the secondary or primary, really, domicile lord of the ascendant, and see the South Node Venus also indicating that there's going to be somewhat of a leaving behind of her of who she is, of her significance. Um, Not that she's going to become any less famous with North Node in the 10th house, but it's sort of like letting go of her identity, both in both the Venus as the ascendant lord and Sun as the main significator of her personality or her worldliness. So that's really interesting. Now that she's older, right? She's what, 43, I think. Um, so that's really interesting. Venus also secondary progressed Venus is in Aquarius, but it's retrograde. And it'll be interesting to see what happens when it retrogrades back into Capricorn and hits the sun. My feeling is there's going to be a fallout at that point. Let's see when that is. Which we've also seen with uh, Taylor Swift. Her Venus was retrograde, changed back, went back into Capricorn, and then hit the rays of the sun. Okay, but this is not going to be okay. So this is actually as the sun progresses into Aquarius, and that's going to be in a few years, right? Like 2031-ish. As soon as that sun moves into Aquarius, same sign as Venus, her Venus is going to become, there's you're going to lose the sign barrier. That Venus is going to become more combust, irritable, irritated, and there will be some sort of um fallout. I mean, not that there's not already, but further um disharmony between the world represented by the sun and Venus, her, right? Because there's that irritability with the combustion in the same sign. Um, she is in her Capricorn um, secondary progressed lunation, which if we go back, you'll see what I'm saying. So we're going back in time to when it was a new moon in the secondary progressed cycle. Let's get it more exact. Okay, so that was around 2006. If we go to the Wikipedia, so we can see that that's when she really started having trouble. When the secondary progressed lunation went from Sag with all her planets. Look at this. This is important to understand. Um, so the secondary progressed cycle when she was having her huge success was in Sagittarius, right? Um, Then the next cycle was in Capricorn. So this Sagittarius is fun, it's mutable fire, it's activating all these planets. The sun is the worldliness, the fame, Neptune is the exotic nature, the glamour, the glitz, the fantasy, the illusion, the delusion, the creativity, right? Mercury is the expression, Uranus is the groundbreaking, revolutionary kind of energy. And its third house disposited by Jupiter in the second. So it's second, third house, right? Music, expression, all that. Right? Then it moves into Capricorn, disposited by Saturn. It's a nighttime chart. Saturn is her most difficult planet, but also her strongest planet, right? It's angular. It's in domicile. Or it's sorry, it's angular and it's exalted. And it is the exaltation lord and the bound lord of the ascendant. Right. So it's a pretty important planet and it's very powerful conjunct Pluto, although it's going to go through many transformations and crises because of Pluto. Um, And then fourth house, the new moon and lunation in Capricorn is also going to activate her father, right? It's going to deactivate the singing, dancing, second, third house, but it's going to activate this fourth house, which is her father. But it's all still going to activate. I mean, she still does stuff in this period. I mean, Venus is here, the nodal axis is here, so it's activating her first house as well with the Saturn. So she's still activated. It's just a little bit different. And you see this, a whole bunch of stuff happened at this point. So like she drive with her son in her lap, and that were like people were horrified by that. Um, and then all kinds of things. Like that's when she shaved her head. Oh, she announced she no longer studied Kabbalah, explaining my baby is my religion, fourth house, right? Deactivation of Sagittarius, which is religion. Activation of Capricorn, fourth house, which is not religious but family oriented. Um, I guess she posed nude. I mean, activating the first house, whatever. But um, let's see. She had a bunch of marriages and whatnot. I mean, all along, really. Um, she was sued by Louis Vuitton. Uh, she admitted herself to treatment facility. Okay, so that was the time where she shaved her head, and like people were like, "Oh, Britney Spears going crazy." She was in a new moon. Period. All right. What else? So then and then later she got into the conservatorship by her father, right? Activating the fourth house, that's Saturn. That's her most um uh her worst planet, her out of second malefic. She was committed to the psych ward, uh involuntary psychiatric hold, and they give you drugs. They force you to take drugs, right? And these drugs are not helpful, right? They're really not. They destroy your brain. I know some people are like, well, in certain cases, okay, fine. If somebody's suicidal and it's going to keep them from committing suicide or hurting another person, fine. I can understand that. But long term, they destroy your brain. They do. And if you go off them, then everyone's like, oh, you're acting crazy. Get back on your meds. Useful fucking idiots. These people are horrible. They're stupid. They're ignorant. They're dumb. Anyway, yeah, I know two people who died following this path because they were court ordered to take meds, and it destroyed them. Right, it destroyed their brains. Uh, but obviously, I've seen it all over the place. Like Britney Spears is a classic example, and so are so many other these young girls, particularly young girls. They really can manipulate these young girls to do whatever they want. It's horrible. Um, she's not even that young anymore, but still relatively. Uh, so yeah, and then she still managed to like make an album that was hit number one and made the Guinness Book of World Records. Um, Still topping the charts. Um, but we go forward. Um, let's go forward to the full the full moon lunation. We'll see what happens there. And it's an eclipse. Now that's really interesting. We see that okay, I want to get it exact. Oops. Well, that's exact this needs to be. All right, that's around 2020, middle of 2020. And what happened then? Conservatorship dispute, Free Britney, and abuse allegations, right? So what happened at the beginning of that new lunation cycle, the conservatorship at the full moon came to a head. And that's how it works, right? The themes of that start with the new moon will come to a full fruition at the full moon. So Free Britney, all that. And I agree with that. Like who wants their life you know, being controlled by somebody else. I hate that. I mean, for me, that's just like I become like suicidal, homicidal. Like if somebody tries to control me, I'm just like, fuck you. Like this is not going to end well. All right. Spears announced an indefinite hiatus. I'm not going to read all that. Yeah. So like, I think we all lived through. We all know what happened. Like, just there was a lot of free Britney stuff, and then eventually she got out of her conservatorship, um, which is great. Um, all right. So yeah, that's the full moon, and it's an eclipse. So very powerful fruition, very powerful. Yeah, it's 10th house, so it's really public. Moon's in Cancer, secondary progressed moon, and North Node moon. So 10th house, nighttime chart. So yeah, she wins because look, North Node's with the moon. Moon's in good dignity. It's very public, and it's a nighttime chart. So moon is her sect light, so it more represents her, especially as a woman, right? It's you know it's going to be much more promising for her. South Node, father, fourth house, Capricorn, all fatherly indicators here are sort of like detaching, letting go, right? Um, yeah, so that's that. We can look at a few other things. Oh, I can tell you that when she has the secondary progressed lunation, let's look at that. The next one. She says she's retired from music, but I think she's going to make a comeback at this point. Let's see when that is. I know she's going to be much older, but that will be um a little over 10 years from now. Yeah. So yeah, around 2035. So 11 years from now. 11, even 12 years from now. But because it's in Aquarius, it's in the fifth house of entertainment. Mercury is here. It's going to activate the moon. That's her sect light. That's her 10th lord, her MC lord. Activating the North Node, her 10th house, fifth house. It's harmonious with her ascendant, obviously. Sign, air. That's going to be a really good period for her. Not only that, but if we go look at zodiacal releasing, she's in her peak period right now. And amazing, she did all that all of her success before her peak period. It was like build up, right? Building up to the peak period. And this is going to last quite a while, this peak period. Going to last till she's 68. So she's not done yet by any means. She's going to have this secondary progressed lunation cycle in Aquarius, and she's going to get back into the game, right? Renewed vigor. Um, right now it's a bit of a lull. Her moon's in the 12th house in Virgo. So interesting that she did made that video with the two knives because that is a very Virgo-esque kind of thing because it just is. Because Virgo's number six, six is composed of two threes. Threes are sharp, right? Threes are sharp. So it's like two razor blades. That's the kind of image that comes with Virgo. It's kind of like slicing and dicing, you know, a knife in each hand. It sort of cut you up and reorder everything. So that's a very Virgo archetype there. Um, let's let's look at the solar arc directions because I think there's a little more. We can see some other things there. All right, so sun is pretty much the same. It always will be with the solar arc and whatnot. Um, Neptune moon. So Neptune moon is not bad, but it is going to, especially in Aquarius, that it is a bit like fantasy delusion. I mean, Aquarian moons on their own can be a little bit crazy because it's very Aquarius energies, very abstract, very high, very intellectual. Very it's almost one of the faults or low expressions of Aquarian energy is all head, no body, right? So that's kind of crazy. That's in Saturday, right? With Neptune here, that can heighten that. right? The solar arc Neptune, um, not conjunct, but within the same house, so influencing the moon, right? Um, Sun conjunct South Node. I already talked about that. Um, let's see. Pluto is right in between the Mercury and the Sun. And so Pluto influencing the Sun would definitely transform her relationship with the world. Sun representing her worldliness, Pluto the transformative qualities. So the solar arc Pluto for the next few years is really going to change her relationship to the world and change the world's relationship to her, both that transformative quality. People are going to think differently about who Britney is, especially after she's posting these videos of her looking pretty crazy. Um, there's some more stuff. Let's see. Moon. Okay, Moon in conjunct Pluto. That's not really good either. It's similar themes, but Moon is her sect light. Um, It's in very creative Pisces in the sixth house, which is also sixth house conflict, uh, fighting energy, kind of, so with the knives, that also makes sense. But this in conjunct to Pluto, the Pluto is really dominating this moon, right? It's in the superior in conjunct superior eighth house, eighth aspect, eighth side of things where moon is in the sixth, and therefore Pluto is really dominating her mind, which is making it more obsessive, intense, a bit, especially in Pisces, it's going to make her a bit crazy, right? Um, yeah. So Chiron is conjunct the MC here, to the degree, right? And because of that, then her public image is going to be what quite chironic these days, and with all the significations, rejection, wounds coming from rejection. I don't say Chiron represents wounds. I say Chiron represents something completely different and out of the box, and if it's in bad aspect, then people can reject that difference. From that rejection comes the wounds, right? But in itself, Chiron does not represent wounds automatically, right? There's a secondary way that works. However, I would say that um, if the aspect is bad, it will pretty much represent the obvious significations of wounds, rejection, the need for healing, which wounds imply the need for healing. So really, we can just say wounds, but it's not the only planet that can deliver wounds. So it's like really a misnomer to call it the wounded healer, right? Uranus can inflict wounds, Saturn can, Mars can, Pluto can. So it's like can we call all of these the wounded healer? We might as well. They're all malefic when they're badly aspected. So we have a bunch of wounded healers. I mean, I'm sorry, but just this wounded healer Chiron thing is bullshit. It's fucking bullshit. It's just not getting to the point. It's missing the target. So anyway, that being said, Chiron's also square the ascendant, right? 2 degree MC and ascendant. So it's pretty powerful placement right now, Chiron, right? So definitely there's going to be issues, and it's not just the square to the ascendant, it's the inconjunct to Uranus. It's not exact, but that's there, right? So something very shocking and different, like these videos that we keep seeing with her knives, and now she's like, like doing almost like a strip tease kind of thing, but weird. Not like a really sexy one. It's not really sexy. It's not like, ooh, it's almost like, I don't know. I don't know what you're going for there. But anyway. Um, yeah, so that's another one that is concerning. And is there anything else? Um, the Moon Mars opposition, right? Mars in the 12th is great for dancing, and she's known for that. right? Being physical and creative at the same time, being physical and artistic at the same time. But she's known for being a dancer. So also this moon opposing Mars, this 12th house Mars natal, is going to activate her desire to dance, right? And so she's filming it, right? But in a big crazy way. Yeah. Venus is uh, squaring. It's actually, yeah. Venus is squaring the Pluto. Venus is squaring Pluto anyway, isn't it? Yeah, it is. Yeah, Venus is squaring Pluto natally, obviously. So still, but then Venus is squaring the Sun and Mercury. Uh, Venus being our ascendant lord, Sun obviously having, associations to the world. There's conflict there. Um, yeah. So I think that's it. Um, Obviously I could look at like, solar returns and yearly perfections, but that's getting a little too granular. I just wanted to keep a big picture. Um, Oh, also, we could look at just the current transits. We see that Pluto has entered Aquarius, and that's also going to transform her, her moon, her mind, it's also her sect light. It's, far enough now, but it's entered it's entered the sign of Aquarius. That's really going to transform her mind. And it might make her a bit crazy for a while, especially because it's in Aquarius, right? So that is something to consider. Um, Neptune's in the sixth. It's gonna move into the seventh. So that'll be interesting. Um, yeah, probably more marriages that don't work. But anyway, it's getting a bit ahead of myself. I'm not trying to do any too much future predictions. Just that when the new moon hits the Aquarius, that's going to be a new beginning for her in a good way, right? So anyway, uh, just wanted to share my thoughts about Britney Spears and her astrology right now and what's going on with her and what's been going on with her. So I thought it was pretty interesting. Hit that like button, guys, if you can. Yeah, subscribe to me, to my channel if you haven't already. Book a reading with me, macrogoldmachine at yahoo.com. And that's it. Joe Axman, the astrologer, signing off. Meh. Win before you win, guys. Take a victory laugh it off, and all that good stuff. I'll see you again soon.